I'm really happy that we are doing this session today because it's actually the first open conversation that we are running with the team of the Smart Specialization of Thessaly. And we have, I'm very lucky to have with me Dimitris Gousios, Dimitris Vrachosterios, Stathis Arapostathis. Dimitris was with us in the group of the agricultural team. So we have many credits in different partnerships and cooperations to discuss about. Today, we're trying to see how we're going to improve things in the policies for financing and agriculture. This is a very important issue, a big industry, huge domain, very far away from the next sector, the industry of different metals. And that's what we will be trying to do today. Yannis Bakalakis mentioned many things that I wanted to say. I won't repeat him. So let's talk more in depth. We're looking for a more systematic approach in the regional innovation policy, contrary to what's been happening for these 3 programming periods that have passed us, and we've reached a difficult stage. We've had a lot of systemic pressures from the environment. We have understood that we need systemic changes. We don't just need better crops, better irrigation systems, a little bit some better foods for the animals. We need to look things differently. We call this a system redefinition. We cannot do this on our own because our resources are limited to make a big difference. But we can set a good base to move from the bottom up. And we can redistribute all the resources from the European level to the local level. I'm not aware how many of you have checked on the results of the first research that ESPA published. These are some results, outcomes from the different businesses that actually asked for funds. But let me just mention some very interesting examples. But they have the same systemic nature. We're talking about an ecological management of the Pagasetikos Gulf. We're talking about hydroponic, about developing models of better management of animals. These are things that if they go well, they will have great results. That is where we start our discussion from. And let me just introduce the panelists.
Θα ξεκινήσω από δεξιά προς τα αριστερά.
I will start with our guest, Mr. Stathis Arapostathis, who is working on innovation with society. by looking into the transformations in the agri-food systems. He is the most relevant person in Greece, in my opinion, for what we try to do today, to do a step further in innovation. He has already worked a lot in February 2024 in shaping the regional strategy, and today we want to hear from his experience. Continuing, Panagiotis Kalfoutsos is the president of the BOD of Thessaly, the agricultural cooperative. This cooperative has been very successful for the last 10 years. Dimitris Vlachos-Terios is a director in the Institute of Industrial and Forage Crops. Elgo Dimitra, he works on the genetic improvement of plants. Mr. Gouskios needs no introduction, but for those of you who do not know him, he is an expert in planning and rural development. He has been doing wonderful things, and just two examples, Terra Thessalia for feta cheese, and more recently, the innovative things that you do with an IPS network in Farsala. He always starts from the bottom going upwards. Antonis Politis, last but not least, represents the older, if memory serves me right, in Thessaly, the agricultural cooperative of Zagora in Pelion. You know the protected designation of origin apples, the apples Zagorin. They are a very successful example of organizational innovation. So let us start the first round of questions, starting from the left and going towards the right. So the first question to Antonis Politis.
Yesterday, we had the topics of the fact that a lonely farmer cannot create a business plan, cannot ask for financing, is not aware of the right moves for innovation. So the idea is that we are partnering up, and we are all trying to do something together so that we can create scale economies. Can you please tell us how the Zagorin concept works and how it managed to be successful after all of these years? Good morning, everyone. Congratulations to the organizers for doing this event here in Thessaly. We are able in that way to come together, although we've known each other for many years professionally. And I'm very happy and I'm very honored to be in contact with almost everyone. I represent today the Zagora cooperative, the agricultural cooperative of Zagora Pelion, and they have been active for 100 years. And you ask the right questions. And take into consideration what we said yesterday, and I think what we must have heard a little bit more about yesterday is that we have a national issue that is actually called the demographics issue. When we're talking about the primary sector, then we normally talk about the agricultural sector. Although the global population is increasing, the workers, the available workers, are decreasing. So Europe is very rightfully putting into the top the production of high-quality products, but we see some concerning thoughts about their moves. We talked about the demographic issue, and this, of course, can really shake things up, especially because this is an economy that costs a lot. I don't want to talk about more about the bureaucracy and the difficulties and the issues we face in those sectors. We've already discussed about it. But we've learned to look into the future, but take into consideration the past as well. Of course, we're talking about modernizing things, but we need to take into consideration what has happened in the past. In Thessaly, in the region of Thessaly, we have something that is common for everybody. You might not be aware of this because of different factors, but we have the cooperatives working together. We are the country that has the first cooperative in Europe, in Almiros region. In Thessaly, we have a cooperative of more than 100 years old. Many things happen, and in order for those to be successful, in the center of the cooperation and the cooperatives, and after many years go by, because you are aware that there are a lot of issues that arise, then we have at the core that there is, of course, mandatory delivery of the products in the cooperative. In the past, we had a 100% mandatory delivery. Later on, this was decreased, and later on there was, of course, a penalty. And in 2016, that was actually for the first time introduced into the national legislation. So we done it first. Now let's move into our next speaker, also part of a cooperative, of a younger cooperative, but he can say to us how they innovate in the plant production. Everyone in this panel are part of this field and this sector, the plant production. Mr. Panagiotis Kalfoutsos, you have the floor. Good morning. I'd like to thank the organizers for this conference today, and I believe that this conference can actually contribute to the great issue that we face. We might be very theoretical sometimes about things, and the issue is that words do not translate into actions. So this is something very important, that we have some more practical outcomes. Generally, the agri-food production sector today, it has to face a lot of crises, one crisis after the other. We, of course, see different details and data that foresee terrible things for the next 10 years. For example, more than 30% of Greek producers are going to leave this field. The use of land will change hands and at a percentage of more than 10 to 20% in the next 10 years. Of course, this has to do, this is influenced by the demographics and as a society, we need to take this into consideration. As producers, as cooperatives, we need to face it, and we need to take into consideration the consequences of those changes. Now, let me talk about the cooperatives. When we talk daily with the producers, everyone understands the need and the importance of the cooperatives running at growth level. So no one denies that. They see the work of the cooperatives trying and striving for better prices for the products. And we don't dictate the prices, but we try to improve them. So we need to look into the benefits, the advantages of them participating in such a scheme. So the cooperatives need to be successful, but the producers should not wait for the cooperatives to be successful and then participate. No, the price does not dictate everything. They help producers reduce the production costs. They also participate in research and development projects. So it's not only about the price. That's what many Greek producers actually think of. We've said at the beginning that the Greek agriculture is facing many challenges, one after the other. But the cooperatives are present and they are trying to speak for their people, the partners, and that is the message that we need to share and put forward. We need to make them understand that only together we can face those challenges. Thank you, Panagiotis. You didn't answer one of my questions, but I'll come back to it. We'll talk about the researches later on. Dimitri Vlachosterio. At a technical level, maybe the resilience is one of the biggest challenges that we can, or we rather have to face. Please share a few words with us. I'd like also to extend my appreciation for this invitation, and I'm very happy that I can represent here an institute that has more than 100 years of history, of research, continuous research, and we are very high in this research sector. Now, about resilience. If we want to see this, how Europe sees it, we're talking about recovery and resilience. Because when there is, let's say, a plant that is actually facing a parasite or something, we need to understand how we can be more resilient and how we can recover. This started from our field, and this has moved further into the whole society. I've been reading all the different calls for the plant production, and right now I can understand that recovery is not very different to resilience. But let us understand why it is important to separate things. What resilience stands for now is the issue of being able to respond to extreme circumstances, to diseases, that of course decrease by a lot plant or animal capital. Now let's move on to today's challenges, and let's focus on Thessaly, because what this forum is trying to do in Thessaly, the number one issue, and there was a unanimous decision yesterday that one of the main issues is, of course, water scarcity, and this has influenced everything. We talked yesterday about Daniel. Even before Daniel, we also had water scarcity, and this continued on. Daniel actually showcased the lacks that were present, what we were lacking of, what we needed to improve on, and this huge topic of water scarcity. You talked about earlier the the issue of demographics, young people leaving the countryside, and what we are trying to do is to improve things in Thessaly in the agricultural sector. And something very positive is biodiversity. I'm not talking about the plants that are planted actually, but a topic that hasn't been researched enough is the topic of the soil. Very few people know how the soil works. It has a whole world of different bacteria, different things, and we are trying to research it. And we're trying to implement it in this process of recovering. There is a lot of interest from the different producers about it. I'm not aware of how much time I've left. I'll try to sum things up soon. But the topic of the genetic improvement of the plants comes hand in hand with the reconstruction of the different different crops. And what are the different crops that have been used and how can they help? For example, we can use genetic modified crops for soils that don't need irrigation, human-made irrigation. So this connects all the scientists with the producers, with everyone that is part of the agri-food sector. So we are looking into issues and we use all the knowledge that we have already gathered so that we can be closer to the producers.
Και ετοιμάζουμε...
Let's start the countdown anew. And now the floor to Mr. Gousios. Dimitri, you have spent your life trying to organize bottom-up approaches in the agricultural development. You go around to various cafes and you have drawn wonderful maps that were included in the plan proposed by the region of Thessaly and showcase the territorial allocation of farming production, both when it comes to animal and plant production. So we have zones of innovation in a sub-regional scale. So kindly share with us how could we utilize the strength of people on a local level and on a small scale. How can we make the most of the natural resources? What is important is how the natural resources are connected with the agri-food issue. By listening to your introductory address, I described that you've used the word systemic, meaning that in Greece we have rather at least understood that this is a rather complex issue. And we have here Adonis Politis, representative of a cooperative. He talked about people abandoning the area. And this is a good pass for me, because I want to talk about the relationship of the agri-food complex with the region. From the 60s and onwards, we tried to see the agri-food as part of the industrial sector. That made sense, and this is how the chain was organized on a national level in order to utilize technology and reduce the cost of production. However, today things have changed. All around Europe, the regional policies understand this agri-food complex as a factor of the growth in the regions. And this is why the environment has changed. Therefore, we have to foster relationships between the agri-food complex and the various regions. And there lies an obstacle. The first obstacle is that when a policy is successful, then it should change. So the policies of 1960s that was successful and brought about good results in the agricultural sector, after having succeeded, means now that it should change because the conditions have changed. However, in Greece, we still have policies, the same policies, that still focus on reducing the cost of production. Allow me to say that this is no more effective because there is yet another factor, which is there is rather a radical change. Reference is made to distinctiveness, meaning that if you would combine the material elements of a production of a food with the immaterial elements of that region, then that product, I apologize, is distinct, that this is a factor that helps competition. There are isolated cases, isolated initiatives that are successful, for example, NIPEAS here in Thessaly, but there is a lack of supporting this phenomenon, those efforts. So in Europe, we have two innovations that try to support the relationship between the agribusiness sector and the lands. On the one hand, the territorial innovation, and then the social innovation that tries to manage this relationship. This is not a theory. Those are classical approaches that have to be taken into consideration in order to be able to allow for this new relationship to foster that gives a competitive advantage to this agri-food complex. Thank you very much for giving examples. The narrative is sometimes better, a narration, than theories. Now our people here that the delegates do not come from the academia. Last but not least, the word to Mr. Arapostathis. He is one of the few people in Greece that conducts research on the systemic transformation, on the transition. So, Mr. Arapostathis, Dimitris Goussios believes that everything good should come from the bottom and up. That might not be enough sometimes. So let's discuss the other approach, the top to bottom. How can we meet that need, the need for systemic transformation? Allow me to thank the organizers for their invitation. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to discuss something that we work on in my laboratory. As Dimitris said, the bottom-up approach is now a given in Europe and in European countries. Let me say why this is important. Dimitris mentioned the concept of growth. But I will introduce another concept. Who will benefit from that growth? If we want to go deeper into the sector of agricultural development, people try to innovate by themselves. However, they have zero support. And especially in East Thessaly, this is crystal clear, where we have hubs of innovation. I'm not talking only about technological innovation, but also when it comes to procedure, where people in the field innovate because they know the field, they know their needs, and because they have no help at all, they have organized themselves and they are farmers/entrepreneurs. Not only because they invest capital, but they invest their effort and their personal time. So they demand and they need, if you start listening to those people, one will understand that what they need is their vision to be heard, or at least to co-produce those visions, work, collaborate with various institutions in order to achieve that goal and realize that vision. First of all, the agricultural sector, their farmers, need institutions, and I'm talking about regional institutions, institutions of the region, and this is why I have proposed the establishment of an innovation hub in the region of Thessaly that will discuss and promote the innovation goals. Why is it important to have this tool? I'm talking about an approach that is not bottom-up, not top-bottom. I'm talking about a horizontal approach, if you wish, on a constant negotiation with the farmers. Such a hub, such a node, if you wish, will be able to bring together the three pillars. The academia, which is far away from the field, not connected. The field, the farmers that feel that they are left alone, and the regional policies. Why is it important to do such a thing? Let me share a short story. In 1920, after the destruction in Asia Minor, we were discussing how are we going to feed all those refugees after the destruction of Smyrna. Ioannis Papadakis tried to investigate, to do research. He was head of the laboratory back then, and he tried to find new resources. His research in the seed discussed the needs and the possibilities of farmers. So if we will not bring farmers to the research, we will not be able to inscribe, if you wish, to record their need. That hub that I proposed is an institution, a tool that will allow for those kinds of collaborations and synergies. Thank you. So we have finished with the first round of questions. We still have some time left. We will keep discussing until 12 o'clock, and the last 15 minutes will be given to the audience for the Q&A session. So we have listened. Dimitris Vlachosterios listing the challenges, but a very quick round where we will try to answer this question: which is the most important challenge in Thessaly, in the agri-food sector, in the agribusiness sector until 2040? The biggest challenge in Thessaly is, in my opinion, who is going to manage the production. This is why I've mentioned demographics. Who and how? In my opinion, we have to redefine the relationship between production and the territories. And because nowadays we have to take into consideration the other stakeholders, the associations. So you talk about governance, yes. Παναγιώτης Καλφούτζος. The biggest challenge is that we have to adopt a smart practices, and in my opinion, Thessaly deserves to have a strategy. We have the vision. If all the stakeholders sit around the same table, we have a vision. We need to plan it, and we need to understand how this crisis will allow us to level up. I am not an agronomist, but in my opinion, the biggest challenge right now in Thessaly is biodiversity. Demographic collaboration, water scarcity, biodiversity. Demographics and governance together. And I'm not talking about the central governance. So you have heard a lot of different opinions. Secondly, let's say that we have those challenges ahead for 2040, that we see it coming. Do you believe that the tools that we have in our disposal on a regional, national level to tackle those challenges meet those needs? Yes or no? Dimitris. Innovation and politics, there are two levels, the national level and the regional level. What can one do on a national level and what can one do on a regional level? On a national level, we can do the planning, meaning that we need long-term research programs. If the research programs are not planned for the long term and they are planned only for 2, 3, or 4 years, they will not bring about good results that will be disseminated to farmers. Let's go on the regional level. On a regional level, each region knows its problems very well. So we can do targeted work and for example, we prioritized the challenges of the region of Thessaly, and then in the various call for tenders, the call for tenders were based on these priorities, and then some programs will be realized and some of them are yet pending for approval. So the characteristics of each region are the competitive advantage of this region. Either we're talking about microclimate, terroir, or local varieties, and all those allow us to have very specific and distinct products. And the region, each region with more short-term programs can do the work here. However, based on my experience, I believe the following. Do you know which is the percentage of the research programs that are realized all around the world becomes a patent, reaches the farmers? On an international level, this percentage is 5 to 10%. Meaning that when you finance 100 programs, you know that only 5 or 10 out of them will will have as a result the final end product. This is the case on an international level because research is a rather wide endeavor. There is Therefore, in order to increase the efficacy of research on a European level, we are moving towards operational teams, researchers, along with farmers, along with the industry. On the last programs of the ministry, they didn't want to combine research with the farmers. They wanted research that already was concluded, existing research knowledge that lies there unused, that is stored in papers or conferences to try and see if this research is good enough. If it is good enough, it should be given freely to the cooperatives, to the farmers, and then they will come up with a product. So those operational teams is to increase this percent, 5 to 10, to increase to 15%. And that would be a great success for Greece. I will stop here. I will flip the question for the two representatives of the businesses. Antonis and Panagiotis, do you know the problems of your members, you know the challenges? If you could have one wish, let's say that tomorrow someone asks you, I can grant you a favor. For me, water is for me. My wish is water. We're talking about farming, and farmers cannot manage water. They cannot plant by themselves. Even if we would have solved everything, you understand that the water is something that is a serious issue for us, and it is also a factor of innovation. Look, farming is a dynamic process. It needs quick transfiguring and innovation. So if you ask me for our own cooperative, for our own business, I mentioned smart agri-food sector. Two things come to my mind. First of all, when it comes to farmers, a digital platform that we will be able to follow the lands, the plots of lands and farmers and the agronomists of the cooperative to have specialized, personalized tips and guidance on how much water does this plot of land needs, to be able to identify the diseases very quickly, and at the same time that would improve the products and would allow us to produce products with a decreased CO2 emission.
Allow me, when I'm talking about water, that's what I mean exactly. That is our basic resource. So we've started a process of recycling water. I believe that's what we'll be discussing in the next few years. These are ideas, solutions, and how to reduce water waste, how to reduce the use of water. So innovation is part of it, of course. So on the one hand, we have a green growth. On the other hand, we have digital growth and development. We need to combine those things. And if they brought this solution to you on your doorstep, do you have a way to implement it from the first day? No, there is no such way to do it from the day one. So that's what we understand, and that's what I said on my first comments, because we need to collaborate. I also said that we need to look for the people who will manage those solutions. We see that we are lacking of a lot of workers, a lot of farmers. I talked about the cooperative and the traditions of the cooperatives. If we are not successful managing all of those things, then the cost will be very high. Mr. Goutsios spoke about innovations earlier on, and the cost of the innovation and the research is not something that a farmer can handle and can pay for, or cooperatives can pay for. When we have issues pressuring us, and we have to face many things, then innovation will be on the other side. It won't be tackled. I will turn my thought into other things and comment on those, but what I mean is that we need to think that in the whole European Union we have a 40% presence of cooperative, but in Greece we only have a 20%. just to sum things up, we need to decide on one thing. If we want to grow an agri-food sector that is competitive, and we want to reduce the production costs into bigger plots of land, where there are some in Thessaly present, then we need to work between a sector, a chain that is capable of being competitive based on the cost, and we need to think of the authenticity. That is not just about an idea of a researcher that they just came up with this. What happens in Greece? When we receive funds, when we receive finances, we are doing more marketing and we're doing more certifications. So that means that there is, of course, a sector that is being organized and is trying to be more present. What is happening in Thessaly? Who is doing that? Who is coordinating these two things, the product, the authenticity, and the recognition? And now let's move on with the challenge. The region of Thessaly, along with the universities and the different businesses, are trying to create an innovation ecosystem. I believe that this only can go until a certain level, because there are things that are not working. For example, people moving out of these smaller cities into the bigger ones, bureaucracy issues. And we're also having issues that are between businesses and the local communities. So we need to focus on the lower end of the scale, because we believe that the societal and ethical dimension of this thing is rather decisive. No, we believe that there are more things that play a vital role from a community level to a national and systemic level. Do you believe that you've talked less compared to the others? Would you like to add something? So you gave us a framework on how we can start a centralized, more focused vision. Without everything that's been said from our researcher and the representative of the cooperative, we cannot move forward. Stathis are apostathis. So, if we want to tackle the systemic issues, how could we start with a mission-oriented approach on a national or local, regional level? As I said earlier, we need to think from now on, and that's how modern systems and approaches are thinking, more collaborative schemes. We need to think of the farmers, the research institutions, the universities. We need to bring all of those actors together, the region, the communities. We need to create an institution where all the priorities are going to be discussed, If we don't do that, then we will have, I believe, many opinions, many policies, and anyone will do what they actually want. We won't have a common plan. We also have a lot of pressures coming from the European Union and elsewhere. I didn't talk a lot about biodiversity. I didn't talk about the sustainable development goals. Many more things. We have priorities. So we have the bigger goals, and we need to find a way to make them more specialized. And I believe this can only be done under a hub, innovation hub, where the producer will be able to participate there under the same circumstances and the same conditions. We need to plan different research programs that will last a long time, along with the needs of the farmers, in order to try to answer to their needs. We need to be able to coordinate them, the three actors, the farmer, the regional policy, and the research. Now, and I'm going to ask the audience as well to participate, and a question to all of the panelists. Let's assume that the next time that we'll need to start planning about the next programming period, then we decide that we have 25 million, what we in the past called the RSO1. We decide that we won't run any research, we won't include the universities, and we just decide, the governor decides, that I will just fund one thing that will make the biggest change in Thessaly. What will this be? Where would you bet? Where would you place your bets? Now, let's focus and let's talk about the mission-oriented approach. What is one thing that we should solve in Thessaly? Let me start. Well, this is a rather strict question. Thessaly is not just one part. It has many parts: east, west, northeast, south, etc. Macedonia as well. So I'll take up this challenge. And as I said, the biggest challenge for the farmer is the issue of biodiversity. And I believe that laboratories that are close to the agricultural world, like the laboratory of Dimitrios, and they can run research programs, we need to be able to reinvent this intermediate actor, research actor, that actually linked the production of knowledge with the actual implementation of things, taking things and acting on them. These are the institutions that will be able to act together with the farmer. The farmer is also gaining knowledge. They also have to share knowledge. They can share knowledge. So we need to move away from just deciding whether we want to implement things in the cooperatives, etc. Well, there are different layers, different dimensions in this question, but from the side of the producers, because we're very close to them, I insist on digitalization and innovation. Just one example. In 2030, there will be different tools, different machines, and there is something that's happening in the European Union where things could run without the person being present. So, watering the field, not in 2050, but in 2030. So, how many leaders of those holdings in Greece can do that, can keep up? And this concerns mainly younger farmers. We need to invest a lot of money to train them, to educate them, in order to be able to keep producing rather than giving up our lands and holdings to others to do so. I cannot insist into one thing. What's been said, the issue of demographics, the water scarcity, biodiversity, and the system that is managing all of those things needs to come under one roof. So we need simple solutions. One of them, we have an issue. We need to decide about the varieties on the crops. For example, the wheat. People say to reduce, let's choose one that actually needs less water. Well, that's not a solution, actually. Let's talk about a certain plant. We need to actually evaluate the proposed solution. That's how, for example, things run in Italy and elsewhere. And if we want to decide and have a regional program and plan, then we need to examine things and evaluate things. That doesn't get a lot of money, it doesn't need a lot of financing, very few, but it needs to be done. It's very hard to sum things up. I work on the different systems, whether that has to do with residential systems or agricultural system. One thing is certain: if we don't have younger scientists with ideas to help us, then nothing can move forward. So I cannot accept what you said, that we have a bottom-up approach. No, we're trying to look into the different elements of the ecosystem. We need to think of the space. We have a multifunctional territory. People being present, living in this territory. We also have farmers working on their plots of land. So there is a complex situation. Stathis talked about biodiversity. Biodiversity is not only concerning the farmer, it's concerning the whole society, people, things that are common. So that's why I propose that we need to have a great collaboration on a municipal, farmer, and local authorities level. And that's where we move from. Let's now give the word to our audience for questions, comments. Are there any questions?
Ευχαριστώ.
Thank you very much. I stand up so that everyone can see me. My name is Alexandros Papachadzeis. I am the president of the Department of Agronomists, as mentioned by Mr. Balakakis earlier, who gave us the opportunity and the pleasure to participate in this conference and help you in whatever way we can. Do you want me to ask difficult questions that will lead us to conclusions? This was a trick question. I will ask the difficult ones. Now, when it comes to what you've mentioned about precision farming and robotics, this is what we try to do in the Department of Agrotechnology and Agronomics. This is the farming of the future, farming that will be using the new systems. Let me start by Mr. Arapostathis, whom I follow very closely. Rightly so, you have mentioned the Innovation Hub. I would change the name in an agricultural innovation hub. I was part of a team back in 2021, and we have sent that proposal towards the region of Thessaly. Unfortunately, Ianos came right after that, and our proposal was not accepted. Back then, it was named as Rebrain Thessaly in order to try and bring back the scientists from abroad. A similar effort was done in the region of Patras. You have 1 minute, unfortunately. Now, when it comes to cooperatives, because I am rather old, I have experienced the movement of cooperatives in Greece. Trade unionists or members of parliament or candidates for the members of parliament were born out of that movement. How are you going to safeguard your cooperatives? Because today there is no cash flow from the Bank of Farming, or cooperatives do not enjoy fame in Greece, good fame. And this is our problem, Mr. Vlachosterios. Cooperatives, they either close down or they cannot be certified that they do not owe money to the tax authorities. This was not a question, this was a comment. Thank you very much. I don't know English. I come from Nikia, from Larissa. 2 questions on my behalf. I am a consultant in a lot of cooperatives, and I also am a farmer myself. First of all, I keep listening to water scarcity in Thessaly. Do we have water scarcity in Thessaly or bad water management? Do you know that Thessaly has got 4,000 open channels for water transportation? How are we going to manage the water that we have? Do you want to come with me to go and see how much water we leave to the sea? I have 130 stremas. And lately I have quarreled with my wife. She doesn't speak to me. Okay? I grew up in the area. I grew up with lentils and legume. And then I grew wheat. I cannot now grow wheat because they do not leave me to burn down the plant, and now it has mucus. The lentil is not sold because we sell cheap lentils from Canada, and I have an innovative proposal. And the photovoltaics come to me every day and ask me to rent my land for photovoltaics. And my wife urges me to rent my land for photovoltaics. Leave the tractors aside. Are you going to give me a better price, or should I rent my land to be used for photovoltaics? Do you have an answer for Mr. Vladius for a better price compared to photovoltaics? I want to answer for the cooperative movement. It is difficult to answer to Mr. Vladius. But this is also part of the demographic problem and the consumer model that we have in Greece. When we talk about synergies, not me, the cooperative that I represent, we are two examples in Thessaly of cooperatives, a very old cooperative and a very new cooperative. The team doesn't change. Maybe the consultant may change. Cooperative is still an innovative idea. The fact that in Greece we didn't do it right gives us an opportunity to learn from our mistakes and do better. The fact that we had some people that did bad things. This shouldn't rather give a bad name to cooperatives. This is what I've asked. If we want to produce, who is going to manage this production? Allow me for 1 second, please. I love challenges. I will answer to Mr. Vladius. I would take my wife with the car for a ride, and I would show her around Thessaly. I would see Panagiotis on his tractor, Nikos on his tractor, and then I would take the legime from any bears, and I would say to her, come and let's see if the legime from Thessaly tastes better. In the university, I could opt for crop rotation, and the same could happen to Dimitris Vlachosterios, meaning that there are some people that produce knowledge. If we will not recognize those cooperatives, if we will not recognize the effort of these cooperatives, and we will not give them the chance to find new markets, of course, then all the lands will be left uncultivated. The lands will be set aside. But the big challenge is to help these young people. So I would take my wife for a ride to see all those efforts. Allow me a short comment. The way that one is expressing a problem is very substantial into understanding how you're going to solve it. Naming the problem in the right way is part of the solution. So my question is the following. We keep discussing about innovation and transformation for the region of Thessaly. And I would like to ask the following. Do you believe that there is, since we keep listening about the central state, do you believe that the region of Thessaly has got a mechanism that will monitor the results you believe that the results of this conference, amongst others, the proposals from this panel and from the other panels, do you believe that there will be a mechanism that will monitor the progress of the region of Thessaly? This is my question. I will answer this question. There is a process that is mandatory when it comes to policy making. That strategy of smart expertise is for us, local stakeholders, to discuss and agree on the priorities by listening to each other. And there is a monitoring mechanism. It tries to monitor not only the funds given to Thessaly from Thessaly, but also from the funds given by the state budget and the EU budget. And what is substantial here, what is meaningful here, is that the working group for agri-food, there should be someone that tries to understand the bigger picture, how we can promote synergies, how can we disseminate the knowledge that came from the EU. This is a new effort. This procedure is in place since the beginning of 2024. We have agreed on the first priorities. And what has been agreed has been open as a call for tenders, both for the research programs, and later on we will open call for tenders for the investments in enterprises. So there is a commitment of the region that all the priorities that we agree are realized, and then we will assess the results of that first effort. We will learn from our mistakes, and next spring we will open a second circle of that entrepreneurial discovery. This is how this process, this is how this working team of the region of Thessaly is called. Let me propose something. We should organize a conference and present the results of those programs. Not only deliverables for the commissions, but disseminate the deliverables for all the people to learn them. Dissemination is very important. It is the most critical matter because it is the only way to bring about some results. Yanni, if I may, the dissemination is very critical, but also the interaction is very critical. We should assess also the interaction, not only what we have delivered, what we have came up with. And right now, we thank you for your patience. On behalf of my panelists, thank you very much for your patience.